So earlier this month, we had some bad news about net neutrality. What was the strongest bill for net neutrality passed in the state level was going through the California legislature. But it turned out, and I'd reported on this, that it had been gutted by an assembly chair named Miguel Santiago. Now, Santiago, as I had previously reported, had taken money from the telecommunications industry. So, of course, now look, a lot of politicians will say, oh, the money doesn't impact anything. I just thought that maybe we could be less harsh on the telecommunications industry here in California. Really? Because there's a lot of people, your constituents mainly, that don't agree with that think that, no, all we want is net neutrality protections to make sure that we don't get gutted, or, well, not really gutted. I shouldn't say that. That's not really the right word for it. But we shouldn't have to pay more to feed the greed of this industry. Santiago, of course, did not agree. And, of course, there's a lot of pressure against him. Now, this, of course, happened on June 20th, where the California Assembly had rejected some proposed amendments to move forward Senator Scott Weiner's SB 822 and Senator Kevin de Leon's SB 460 forward as a package. Now, when that happened, Santiago had voted to gut SB 822's strong net neutrality protections. Now, that would actually leave some very big holes for ISPs to be able to game the system and to charge more to consumers. Now, I remember reading a report about that time where during that vote, there were lobbyists sitting outside, and when they had heard of the decision to gut 822, they erupted in cheers. All right, yes, our bosses can screw over the consumers. Yes, they can charge people more for the internet. Thanks for the loopholes, Santiago. Awesome. Now, I do have some good news here on that. Much of those loopholes that were created by Santiago have actually been closed in a new piece of legislation. Now, Senator Weiner, Senator De Leon, Assemblymember Rob Bonta, and Assemblymember Miguel Santiago, the chair of the Assembly Committee on Communications and Conveyance, that had voted on the watered-down bill previously, have all come to an agreement that once again makes California's proposed legislation the strongest net neutrality bill in the country. As was initially proposed by Senator Weiner and Senator De Leon, both net neutrality bills will now come together to become a package, and a lot of what had been taken out of 822 has actually been restored. For example, the ban on blocking, throttling, and paid prioritization remains. The ban on certain kinds of zero rating, which leads consumers to services that ISPs want them to use rather than giving them a choice, also remains, as does the ban on access fees, which means ISPs would not be able to get around these protections by charging fees at the places where data had was going to enter their networks. All in all, this actually seems incredibly strong again. And of course, you can chalk that up to pressure. See, it actually turns out that sometimes politicians, if you pressure them enough, will listen to you and they will bow to that pressure. Because it turns out they actually remember who votes for them. It's not the companies that give them money in legal bribes that vote for them. No, it's you guys. It's all of us. So it turns out they actually do, to some extent, care about what we think. Now, that doesn't mean that they always have our best interests at heart. I'm not saying that. I am saying that we have to watch them like a hawk and pressure them when they actually do something wrong. Because if we leave them to their own devices and don't let them know that we disapprove of something that they're doing, then they're always going to do things that benefit them. They're going to do shady things. They're going to take money from different corporations, and they're going to do what those corporations want. So that's why pressure works. Now, there's pressure, of course, from a lot of left-leaning groups, but I think also there might be some pressure from right-wing voters. It turns out conservatives also don't like being screwed over. In fact, they actually do like strong net neutrality protections. There's been polls where a majority of Republican voters think that, yes, we should have good net neutrality protections. Now, that's the voters, way different than the politicians, because the politicians on the Republican side and some on the Democratic side are wholly in bed with giant corporations. But nonetheless, the pressure, right, is excellent. Look, California, because of that pressure, might just adopt incredibly strong consumer protections, and this could lead, and that's what I'm hoping, this could lead to other states proposing and adopting similar pieces of legislation. Now, look, this still has to get voted on by the legislature. I understand that. So throwing a victory party is a little premature. But nonetheless, in California, this could happen. And if it does, this could spell a whole new era of net neutrality, or at least restore net neutrality on the state level in many other states as well as California. And that, of course, is a very welcome development. So thanks to all the people that put all the pressure on these politicians in order to fix this. My hat's off to you guys. Thank you. And we got to keep fighting so we can get net neutrality for everyone. Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent progressive media, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/TYTNation.